What's up YouTube? Sorry for the delay on the FJ40. I know it's been a few months. Last time I fixed it, I was waiting on funds for parts. Then I got the funds for the parts, ordered them up, and they've just been sitting, hanging around in order for me to get time to put them on. So now is the time to get this pile of parts on the Land Cruiser. Taking the wheels off, we can get a little bit of a closer look here before I tear it apart. We've got brand new rotors ready to go on. I've got rebuild kits for the calipers and new brake pads. We got brand new worn hubs that'll be installed, new wheel bearings, and most importantly, and why I'm doing all this to begin with, is removing the knuckle and getting that burr joint out, pulling the whole axle out, cleaning it all up, repacking it with grease, changing all the seals, and putting it back together. And then I'll jump onto some of the tie rod ends and all the other steering components. But that's gonna be the beginning of this getting it back on the road project. After that, we'll focus on the rear axle, essentially doing the same thing, rebuilding any wearable items, and then take the drive shafts off and change the seals on the transmission and transfer case, and brake master, clutch master, rear wheel cylinders, and then I'll feel more confident in driving it. Anyways, I'm gonna crack that front diff drain open and probably cringe when we see some muck come out of it. So I will flip the camera around, get situated, and we'll see what happens when we open it up. So we're always going to open the fill plug first to make sure we can fill it up once it's cracked open. No different on this one. Okay, that was nice and easy. Alright, let's see what's in here. That's not too bad. I mean, it's got a little gold in it. Not as bad as I was imagining that it would be, for sure. So we'll let that drain and then jump onto the wheel hubs and go from there. It's gonna be little by little. All right, first things first is getting this worn hub off. Okay, so one of them was tight, the rest of them were loose. And before I took it off, I spun everything and made sure it functioned. So I'm not replacing them because they don't work, but I just got new ones. So everything looks nice and fresh when it's all done. Okay. Yep, I wasn't crazy. There was a bunch of rust on this one. All of them had some, but this one was the worst offender, and it was stuck. So now we'll take it off. And you get to see an old hub versus a new one, both made by Warren. This one was recently discontinued, so if you can still get your hands on them, you should. I'll put the link in the description below. There's nothing wrong with these. I'm going to save them. They are the original ones to this, so they will not be getting tossed. That's for sure. All right, I took the gasket off right here, and I just wanted to show you that what I was doing was using this very, very sharp wood chisel. Picked it up at Home Depot, and when I'm hitting it down and trying to wedge it in, but smooth, and I'm not cranking on it or anything, because when you do that, you will mess up this mating surface. So if you look closely, I have not marred or chipped or distorted the surface in any way. When I was using this guy, I was kind of trying to break the seal a little bit, but it's not as fine as of a tip, and this would for sure mess up this surface. So I just went back and I picked up this guy just to be safe. It's what I use also on the axle nut covers for a Tacoma, and it's razor sharp to get started. And looking a little closer, you can see that was some rust buildup that was totally holding that hub in. So I'm going to have to clean all that stuff off so we don't have that problem in the future. Quick recap on what we've done so far. Basically, we've got the caliper off, pulled off the hub first, took the caliper off, undid the nuts that were holding on the wheel bearing assembly, slid the whole assembly out, and this is where we've ended. As you can see inside, look at the grease. It is just done. It's all packed to one side. It's not really lubricating anything, and you can see right here it's a little contaminated as well. Part of the Knuckle rebuild is changing all of this. And another thing to think about, which is kind of odd, if you ever wanted to change the rotors, you have to do everything I just did. And the reason being is these bolts, the heads for them are on the inside facing right here, so you cannot do a disc rotor swap without taking off this complete assembly. Just out of curiosity, I got a new rotor, so this is brand new from Toyota, and just wanted to make sure that it lined up, matched, and it was the same, which it is. But if you look right here, it says minimum thickness 19 millimeters. That means that this cannot be thinner than 19 millimeters if you want to get it resurfaced by someone. But since we're not resurfacing and we're replacing, we don't have to worry about that. But out of curiosity, I want to see where we're at here on this ancient rotor. So we will zero this out and we'll spec it. So we're at 20 millimeters. Surprisingly enough, this can be resurfaced, albeit it would be one more time, but there's a point of concern when a rotor gets too thin. It'll warp easier and it can crack. So this is basically at the end of its life, unless you want to squeeze out one more resurface, but doing all this work is not worth it to me for the chance of warping. So that's why I bought all these parts, just to do it in one shot and be done with it. So as we dig further into this, a lot of it will make sense to you if you haven't seen it before. This is what we're after. We're going to pull this axle shaft completely out of the axle housing, and this steering knuckle right here is what turns when you turn your wheels. That has a bunch of grease in the axle housing and a bunch of seals that wipe this large ball on the end of the knuckle, which you'll also see when I clean it up. So just something to keep an eye out while I do this, and it'll all start making a little bit more sense. All right, well, this is cleaned up as best as it's going to get today. Obviously, we have a lot more deep and thorough cleaning to do, but we're going to jump on over, handle the other side, and call it a day. All right, guys, believe it or not, it's been about a week since I fully took off those hubs and put them in the garage. I cleaned everything, got it all prepped, and I just about have this side ready to go back together. So this is the driver's side knuckle. I've already changed the races on top and bottom, put a new axle seal, got a new felt, rubber, and reused the original metal disc. That's gonna bolt up to the back side of this hub right here. And all I have to do right now is pack the bearings, get it installed, torque the top and bottom, and use a I guess like one of those luggage weight deals, and pull on the end of this and make sure we're at the correct resistance. Otherwise I need to take it all apart and change the shims that are on top and bottom. But we're gonna start by putting it all back together with the factory shims, and hopefully it works the first time so I don't have to do it again. That wasn't too bad. I got the upper and lower Trunnion bearings packed, seated, upper and lower bolts torqued to spec. Now we're going to throw a zip tie in here and measure the resistance. We want 3 to 6 kilos. And let's hope we get it right the first time, because I don't want to take it apart and do it again. So we're going to pull and stay parallel and see what we got. I got about 3.2, 3.5 evenly all the way around. I think that's great. All right, well, now I can get the backing screwed on using these pieces, and then we could jump to the other side, get the knuckle assembled, and we'll call that done for today. I still need to take off the third member, clean all that up, inspect it, and put it back on before I pack this full of grease and put an axle in. So I'm just putting this on for now. One, I didn't want to get the parts lost in the garage anywhere, and two, I need to remember how it goes back together. So the sooner I get all these pieces back on, the better. I'm happy with this at this time, and we'll just keep moving forward, get it put back on little by little. I've got tie rods coming, brake lines, clutch master, brake master, a bunch of seals for the powertrain, and we're going to be rebuilding the rear wheel bearings just like we're doing the front. So there's a bunch more to come on this build. All right, guys, I'm going to cut the video short right here. I'm going to jump onto the passenger side, get that knuckle installed, and then I'll start focusing on mentally preparing myself to drop that third member. I know it's not a lot of work. I just don't want to be under there working on my back. I would love to get a lift one day, but until then, we're working on the driveway. Either way, like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference on the channel. Tell me what content you want to see in the comments below. I'm trying to do a bunch of different things. You know, I have cars, trucks, ATVs. If you want to see something else, let me know.